Today we travel the Silver Seas to make a cocktail called the Silver Seas from the 1973 Mr. Lemonheart's Tropical Treats booklet. I happen to not own this booklet, but you can find PDF versions of it online. The Silver Seas was a drink I had put a pin in a long time ago when I came across a vintage bottle of Lemonheart that the recipe was printed on the back of the bottle. I cannot find that reference online anywhere, but they did print recipes on the back of these old Lemonheart bottles. Kevin Crossman and I went on a fact-finding mission last summer for something unrelated to Lemonheart, but in our journey, we came across some vintage Lemonheart that we tried. It was delicious. And on the back of those bottles was several recipes, but no Silver Seas on those specific bottles. And more recently, I was doing a little shopping and came across a bottle of Lemonheart 1804. This is a bottle of Lemonheart that I don't usually see too often locally. There are only a couple of Lemonheart bottles that are available today, including the 151 and the Spice Rum, and then the one you see right now, the 1804. So while I thought it'd be fun to pick up this bottle and use it in some Lemonheart cocktails, the drink we're making today does not call for Lemonheart Demerara rum, but Lemonheart Jamaican rum, and that was an 86 proof rum. We can't find that rum today, so instead I'm just going to do a blend of Karuba and Worthy Park 109, not because I think that it's going to match that vintage Lemonheart, but I think that it'll just taste good. The recipe also calls for passionola, which you might be able to find out there in the wild these days since the Passionola brand is now selling their passionola syrup. You can also sub in passion fruit syrup here, but since summer is approaching, I want to make my own Fassionola that I can use for more cocktails coming up this summer. There's no definitive Fassionola recipe, but in my opinion at least, a basic Fassionola or a gold Fassionola needs to have heavy passion fruit presence. And the rest, I'll just leave up to you. A couple years ago, I made Fassionola with a bunch of ingredients. That was delicious, and in making it, I made individual syrups and then combined them into one Fassionola. That way you can dial in the proportion. So let's say you want 20% mango, but then you find out that the mango's too strong. Well, you can dial in another recipe by using less. But today I'm going to make it even simpler. Just 3 fruits, passion fruit, strawberries, and peaches in equal proportions, and I'll do them all at one time. To make this, I just weighed out equal parts of fresh strawberries, fresh peaches with the skin on, which is fine for me. And then I'm using frozen passion fruit pieces, or passion fruit puree. Since I know these are all going to have some sugar, and I want the final syrup to be around 50 bricks, which is 50% sugar by weight, I can make an educated guess here and take my total weight of fruit, and in this case that's 750 grams, and multiply it by 90%. So multiply by 0.9, and that comes out to 675 grams of sugar. Once again, I'm doing this because I know that there's sugar in the fruit, so I don't want to do equal parts fruit to sugar. While I'm putting this in a vacuum bag, a Ziploc works fine, and I'm just going to stash this in the fridge for 24 to 48 hours. While it sometimes looks like there's too much sugar to start with, just give it some time. The sugar will basically macerate the fruit, releasing all the liquid, and then in 24 hours, you'll have a delicious looking Fassionola. After I strain this off, I'll put it in a bottle. And finally, I'll test it to see how close my guess was in the fruit to sugar ratio, and I was off. It's 56 to 57 bricks, which is higher than I wanted, but this is close enough for me. But if you were making this recipe and you want to get closer to 50 bricks, you could use less sugar here. So maybe start by multiplying the total fruit by 0.8 and using that much in sugar. So I have a spreadsheet that I use to put in the different numbers for the bricks of a syrup and what I want my target to be, and that way I can just add water here. I don't really care. This is close enough, so it doesn't really matter here. Now, how long is this going to last? Well, I don't know. And my opinion is that you should never trust someone on YouTube to tell you how long a syrup is going to last. And that's because nobody knows. It probably won't last too long, but it will last forever if you keep some of it or all of it in the freezer. And I'm going to freeze some of this so then I can use it later on in the summer for more passionola and Fassionola cocktails. So let's get to making the Silver Seas, and I'm starting with 3 dashes of Angostura bitters, 3 dashes of Pernod, half an ounce of lime juice, half an ounce of orange juice, half an ounce of our homemade Fassionola, half an ounce of a white Puerto Rican style rum, and then 1 ounce of a dark rum, and I'm splitting it here between Caruba and Worthy Park 109. I'll garnish this with some mint, a slice of pineapple, and a sugar cane straw. All right, let's try it. Cheers. It's very good. It has the familiarity that you would associate with a drink like this that has, rum and passionola with a little bit of orange juice and lime juice. The Pernod doesn't come through as much as you might think it does. There's like a touch of like a finishing bitter note to it, which I find to be pleasant. It's not overwhelming. And you can definitely get the strawberry, the passion fruit, and even though we didn't use a full 2 ounces of rum, the rum I use, a couple of those a little bit higher proof, comes through. You can definitely taste the rum. All right, so how much is a dash? Would you 3 dashes of Pernod here? This is like a kind of a big loaded question. But when you're translating a dash to a dropper, the only way for you to know is for you to test that yourself with a scale. I've done that before. I just did it recently, like a week or two ago. And what I found is not for the one I was just using, which is my own like Amazon dropper bottle, but if you're using the Bittermins, compare the Bittermins to a regular dash out of a dasher bottle, they're about the same. But these things are, there is no standardized dash because different bitters coming out of the same bottle will come out more or less depending on what's actually in it. My experience, the orange bitters come out a lot more than something like Angostura or like a cardamom bitters. It really just depends on what's in there. But I've done some testing with the Bittermins and found that the Bittermins basically equal about a dash. And then my little dasher from Amazon, I know that the full basically bulb there is going to be about 2 to 3 dashes, which is why I didn't use 3 full drops from that bottle. So if you're looking for precision in the world of dashes, then you're not going to find it. You got to be okay with that. But if you really want to know more about what you have at your bar, then you need a little scale that weighs out smaller amounts, and you need to weigh them out. And if you're looking at this glassware and you're interested, this glassware is a vintage Libby glassware called the Treasure Island. You can find these on eBay. They're pretty plentiful. Smuggler's Cove probably made this one a little bit more famous because there's a picture of the Port-au-Prince in their book using this exact glassware. But I will say that I am now selling a lot of my vintage glassware. For the most part, most of them are vintage on the Make and Drink shop. I don't have this one, but I do have the smaller, like tiny little, coupe cocktail glass if you're interested. I'm trying to keep the prices on those low. This is vintage glassware I've been collecting from several years ago up until like a couple weeks ago. And oftentimes I'm buying them in packs of 4 or 10 plus, which is too much. So I'm reselling them. I'm trying to keep the cost down and not make like a big profit off of them. So while buying them would support this channel, mainly you would be supporting my addiction to buying vintage glassware and keeping it going. So in the future, I can get more vintage glassware, but hopefully find some cool stuff that maybe some of you would like. And you also don't want to buy a pack of 12 of something. So you can just get 1 or 2 from the Make and Drink shop. So the Silver Seas, it is rummy, it is fruity, it's Fassionola-y, and that book, the Tropical Treats book, is really cool. There's a lot more details we'll jump into in the future here, including more about who helped write that book, because the person behind it has a connection to the Makai. So that's it for this one. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like below. Consider subscribing to the channel. If you want to support this channel more, you can go buy some vintage glassware. Otherwise, you can check out my Patreon page, and I will see you on the next one.